Hi, I'm Dylan Cox and this is my Froch v Groves prediction. So we've seen all the build up to the fight so far. I was there at the press conference yesterday, got to talk to both guys. Some people say Groves run the press conference, Froch run the head-to-head, vice versa. It doesn't really matter. What I saw from both guys was that they're both confident and both actually away from the press conference, and when I was talking to them one-to-one, very calm and aware of what they're getting themselves into on Saturday night. Carl confident in his experience and George confident in the openings that he's seen in Froch's performances that he can capitalise on. Whether he can do that, we're not 100% sure, but for this prediction, I'm actually going to go for George Groves on points, which goes counter to some of the things I've said in the past, but like I said before, once I saw the guys up close, once I got to have a feel for how they were mentally, and the kind of little things that they were saying and just looking at each other, I have a feeling that Froch wants this to be a Butte kind of performance. I'm not so sure Rob McCracken wants that. I think he wants Froch to box a little bit. The problem is, Froch is a very heart-orientated guy. If someone comes to him and hits him and starts putting it on him, he's going to fight back. He's not going to revert to some boxing plan that they've thought up in the gym up in Sheffield. He's going to go mano a mano, and that's what he's about, and that's why we love him. But I do think all this winding up from George Groves, all this getting in his head, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. Froch did actually admit it yesterday. He has wound him up. He said George Groves got under his skin. That's not a bad thing, but it just means it can take Carl out of his game plan. Carl's got a very long reach and a decent jab when he uses it, but his shoulder's low, he flicks it up, he does a weird thing with it, and he's slow with some of his punches. If George can win the battle of the jabs, which I think he can, he's got a very quick, sharp jab when he uses it, and I think that's the key to the victory here. Use the jab, get the backhand in and get away. He did tell Carl Froch what his game plan was going to be for the first 3 rounds. Come out, jab, double right hand. A hard combo to throw because normally once you find the first right hand, the guy's already covering up or thinking about what's coming back. So if he gets 2 right hands off a jab against Froch, that's saying something. But that's also setting the tone, and I think it's a mental thing. George is saying, he's like, I'm going to get off 2 right hands on you straight away, and then you're going to be like, whoa, what's hit me? What can I do about it? And I think that was what he was getting at, and I think that's what his plan's going to be. Sharp, crisp shots, move out, but in the centre of the ring, not running, but just in and out, bang, 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 and just holding that centre and dictating the pace of the fight. I see this going on for the first few rounds, then Carl realising that, he's not going to be able to box with this guy, he doesn't want to, he's going to have to start putting the pressure on, and that's where you're going to see him chasing a little bit, and this is where it really plays into Groves' hands, where Carl can become quite clumsy. You remember earlier in his career, he used to throw these like leaping, lunging uppercuts. You don't see them so more now as he's gone up in class, but for those fights before he won his world title, he'd throw this like uppercut and it would land sometimes. He knocked Brian McGee out with one, and he can look quite clumsy in throwing them, and I think when he's really wanted to get to somebody, he might start throwing wild hooks and stuff. But he will come back into the fight in the mid rounds. George's gas may be running a little bit low because he's exerted a lot in the first few rounds to get the points behind him, and then Carl will come into it a little bit, and then I think George might get a second wind, get a bit more confidence behind the jab, and just frustrate Froch, but not in a running kind of fight, but more in a just, I'm beating you to the jab, I'm beating you to the right hand, I'm not going to knock you out, but I'm just keeping you off me. And then that's when Froch gets frustrated. You saw it against Durrell, you saw it against Wood. He even says afterwards, he's like, they're fiddly, they're just slippery, I really didn't enjoy it, and I think that's what's going to happen in this fight. I think George is going to get a close decision, maybe 115, 113 or 116, 112. I think he's going to frustrate Froch. Yes, he's going to have to come through some hairy moments, but I think he'll fiddle and fight his way through, maybe hold a little bit, be a bit sensible. As he said, and as I agree, Froch is a heavy-handed fighter, but he's not a one-punch knockout artist. I don't think, when I looked at George in the eyes yesterday and talked to him, I didn't see a sense of, I'm convincing myself I can do this. It's more of, no, I know I can do this. I've seen the openings, I know I can capitalise on them. And I said to him, and I think this is true, it's almost looked frowned upon to say anything bad about Carl Froch because of what he's done for the sport, because of the fights he's had. But when you break them down, he's not always looked great, and he has shown massive flaws, and people forget that. Early in his career, even against Brian McGee, the fight I talked about earlier, he was losing that fight up until then. He was very close with Charles Adamu. He struggled against Westerman, he struggled against Barney, he struggled against these guys, and that was early in his career. And there was a time when I thought, I don't know if he'll make it as a world champion. Beats Pascal, looks good, then has this great run of fights, but a couple of losses and a couple of tricky wins in between. They're pointing towards the Taylor fight, the Durrell fight, the Glencoff-Johnson fight. I mean, an old Glencoff-Johnson was getting his right hand off against Froch. I don't care what the circumstances were there. Froch can eat right hands. George has got a good, sharp right hand, so that can cause some damage. On the other side, Carl is a very, physically imposing fighter, a very determined fighter. He's got a good long reach on him, much longer than George's. And he's got some thudding shots, but I just think he can be too ponderous and slow at times. And I think, a toe-to-toe battle, he'd beat George every day. But if George can just turn on the style a little bit, use the jab, a great jab, and move a little bit, but still try and hold the centre of the ring, he can pull this off on points. So that's my prediction. George Groves on points over 12 to claim the WBA and IBF super middleweight titles. Don't miss the fight. It's coming live on Sky Box Office tomorrow night. Don't forget to check our videos from Macau. Our man Radio Raheem out there getting all the latest content. He's put loads more stuff up. He had an interview with Roy Jones. He's going to have all the stuff from the weigh-in, the press conference, the final press conference, everything from Macau, and all the post-fight stuff as well. He's working his socks off over there, so make sure you check out those videos. Don't forget to check back with me on Sunday when I give you my wrap-up, talking about the fight that was Carl Froch versus George Groves, and we'll see who won. Also, we'll be talking about the undercard as well. Scott Quigg's world title fight, Anthony Crolla, Luke Campbell, guys like that, and we'll make sure we cover it all. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you very shortly. Froch v Groves, Saturday night. Don't miss it.